Hi everyone, I'm Marysol Castro, and thank you so much for joining me for The Hero in You. On my way to the studio today, I was flipping around the radio and I heard a song by David Bowie. I caught myself singing along. We can be heroes just for one day. And it's true, we can all be heroes. So let's start being one right now. On today's show, you'll meet a warrior who you better not call wounded, a pair of twins who found a unique way to honor their dad, someone whose life was changed by the wrong address, and a very unlikely health and beauty expert. We begin with an Israeli special ops soldier named Izzy, who lost his arm during battle. Despite all that, he refused to leave his unit until his tour of duty was complete.
I think people can take away something from the fact that I wrote a book at all. Like, who loses a hand, like the thing you write with, and then says, you know what, now's the time to write a book. Like, that should be, inspiring in some way. But I mean, I want people to learn from my mistakes as well as the successes that I've had. I don't shy away from my failings and the things I did wrong on the road to becoming this one-armed special forces guy. I'm proud of the fact that I was willing to actually share those struggles and to talk about them. Family life took a few twists and turns. I was born into a secular Jewish home from Miami. When I was 8, my parents decided that we were becoming Orthodox. So that was interesting. That was a shift. Birthright was an eye-opening experience. I'm a huge fan of the organization. That's where I met really my first group of friends who were Israeli soldiers and realized that that's something that I wanted to do as well. The start of my service was a combination of emotions. One of it was awe and respect for the cause I was fighting for. Also, literally, what's going on? I don't know. I don't understand the language they're speaking. There is no better incentive to learning a language than having to do extra push-ups or laps or cleaning toilets. So I picked up Hebrew really fast. So this is the first unit that I served in. That's the unit I served in when I lost my arm. Anytime you have a black border around it, that means that you lost a friend or somebody in that unit. The morning before I got injured was already a very bad day for my unit. We got back to base to learn that a captain from our brigade, we got hit by 5 RPGs and that we were going to be going in for the first time so that we could take over his unit's position, essentially. I was sitting in my tent, kind of gathering my thoughts, trying to figure out how I felt about this whole situation that I was in. And while I was thinking, I was directly hit by a 120 millimeter mortar. I lost my left arm on the spot. There were a couple of new realities that I woke up to, all of them difficult. One was the struggles of just doing simple tasks again, things as simple as tying my shoes or, buckling a belt, buttoning a shirt, cutting food. I was not welcomed back into the IDF with open arms. I woke up one day in rehab and I had, papers that said, hey, you're done, thank you for your service, goodbye. And I was furious because I wasn't ready to finish. So I had to fight my way back in. The reason I insisted so strongly to go back to the IDF is because I didn't want my injury to define me. And I knew that if I went back, it basically meant that I was erasing the damage. Fortunately, I found a general who was willing to at least give me the chance. I had to relearn how to shoot, load, and unjam an assault rifle, how to do obstacle courses in full combat gear, that include jumping over a 7-foot wall, climbing rope, crawling. So, by the time I was there, people understood why. No favors were being done. I had earned my spot back on the team. I didn't choose to be a motivational speaker. I was at some dinner somewhere on a college campus. There were 500 students there, and the guy in charge came over and said, hey, do you mind saying a few words to the students about your story? And I'm a shy person, but I didn't want to deny my host his request. And I had to get up in front of all those people, totally embarrassed, to talk about my life for the first time, and I've been doing it ever since. Because I was able to get past it, I think that gave my parents and my siblings and my friends permission to get past it as well. There had been so many things in my life before then that I just didn't complete, things I hadn't finished, and I was sick of that being the case. I was going to see this one through, like I was asking a lot of myself, but I'm so happy that I did.
Izzy is the only combat veteran ever to return to the battlefield after losing a limb. He describes himself as an ordinary, unremarkable nerd. If that's how we're defining nerds, Izzy, sign me up. When twins Mike and Daniel Friedman lost their father on 9/11, the boys knew they had big shoes to fill. But when you both have size 16 feet, the business they started to honor their dad was an obvious choice.
Socks have always been an issue for me.
Socks have always been an issue for me.
When I go to big and tall stores, the designs are very plain and very muted.
I would just find these boring patterns, plain gray, plain blue, and I got angry.
I can't find the pops of color.
My friends would always wear these funky patterns. That was always, that would frustrate me a lot.
The designs were very conservative, and we wanted to do something about that. Hi, I'm Dan Friedman. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of TallOrder.com. I am 6'9" and I wear a size 16 shoe.
I'm Mike Freeman, and I am the co-founder and co-CEO of TallOrder.com. And at 6'11", I am the tallest twin.
Oh, and there's the bundle that we need for this week. Hi, I'm Lisa Friedman Clark. I am the president and co-founder of TallOrder.com.
I don't like that last part. Tall Order socks were created in sizes 12 to 20 to fill the need for funky, fun socks for people with big feet and for people who don't fit in standard size socks comfortably.
Tall Order has committed to donate 10% of our profits to Tuesday's Children with a minimum of $10,000 per year. Well, on 9/11, I was at work and I was on a conference call with my boss who was actually in Manhattan. And when I saw what was going on, I couldn't breathe. It was horrific. Andrew called me at 9:16. He just said, "Hi, Lisa, we're all in a room and we have plenty of air." That's all he said. I heard people coughing in the background. So I didn't say anything. I just said, "I love you." I couldn't even talk. I was completely paralyzed. That's the only way to describe it. He was on 92. The plane had hit between 93 and 98. And so he was really on that line of demarcation. Everybody below 91 lived and the people above 91 died. When you're a mother, you have these instincts that you take care of your kids. So I was fortunate in that I had the strength to get myself out of bed every day because I knew I had to help my children and I was now the leader. And if I put my best foot forward and I went back to work and I showed them that we're going to get through this, that they would follow my lead. So I thank God I had children at the time, because if I hadn't, I'd probably still be in bed. But my kids saved me too. It was sort of a mutual thing. It's really the top of my bucket list was to start my own business. I was fortunate to work for some really good companies along the way, and I picked up a lot of good skills. So what better way to use them than to impart them on your children?
Working with my mom has been a blessing. To be able to share the interaction with her every day, going over reports, going over sales, going over costs, going over everything that we need to do to make this business grow has been awesome. And for her supporting what we're doing is, to me, one of the best feelings in the world. Tall Order gives back to Tuesday's Children because Tuesday's Children was so instrumental in our recovery from September 11th. They provided a platform that we could live by and do things that we didn't think were possible.
Tuesday's Children did a lot of programs to get us out in the community, to get us together, get us engaged. This would be the role that our dad would take in our lives, and they did that to fill that role.
The heart of our company is Andy. If we can create something that's a legacy for my husband that also gives back and helps other people facing traumatic loss, then it's like a win-win-win.
Tall Order uses a sky blue embroidered logo because the morning of 9/11 was a cloudless sky. The twins say it acts as a constant reminder to help one another through traumatic times. Some people become heroes by accident. Bruce Banner was doused by gamma radiation, Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider, and our next hero, Dr. Vince Patton, accidentally walked into the wrong office.
The Coast Guard was never in my vocabulary as I was growing up as a child. Everybody knew that I was going to join the Navy. From age 10 till about age 17, that's all I talked about to everybody. My oldest brother went into the Navy, I was going to the Navy. So on my 17th birthday, I went down to the Navy recruiter in downtown Detroit, and back then the Coast Guard uniform was the same as a Navy uniform. So I walked into the wrong recruiting office. It was easy to make that mistake that you see a guy in a Navy uniform, you walk in. And then I was too embarrassed to turn around and walk out. And as I was walking around the office, I became interested in the Coast Guard. And then I read this unit citation on a ship that was up in Alaska, a cruise liner that had run aground. It caught on fire. There were 3,000 people on board taking on water. I mean, this citation read like a novel. And I said, wow. And then that was it. After 7 years of wanting to join the Navy, I went in the Coast Guard. And they asked us what kind of occupational fields that we wanted to go into. Well, innocent me, 5 weeks into the Coast Guard, asked the most honest question, well, what school do I go to become the Master Chief of the Coast Guard? Well, my drill instructor thought I was being a smart aleck, and he made me do 50 push-ups. At my 50, snapped back to attention, and I'm sweating, and then the drill instructor gets into my face and says, the day you become the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, that's the day I'll walk on clouds. Well, he was so right, because he died 2 years before I became Master Chief of the Coast Guard. When I was selected as Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, believe it or not, 26 years later was when it finally hit me that you're not only the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, but you're the first African American to achieve that rank. And as many people, particularly young African Americans who were coming into the Coast Guard, it gave them hope. It gave them hope that all the doors are open, all the things that they want to do are there. And I think when they see that, that kind of gives that sigh of relief of knowing that there will be challenges, but if that guy can make it, I know I can make it. After I retired, I went to divinity school. Some people ask me, do you miss your Coast Guard career? And I says, no, I don't, because I'm still involved. And I took the Coast Guard with me after I retired, and what I learned and the things that I did.
Since retiring from the Coast Guard, Dr. Patton does missionary work in Haiti and is the executive director of an organization that teaches disenfranchised teenagers seamanship and sailing skills. Aye, aye, sir. A tragic accident left beauty entrepreneur Francesca Clark a quadriplegic, but it was a chance meeting with Superman himself that inspired him to create one of the most successful skincare lines in the country.
There was a pool at the house, and I dove into what I thought was the deep end. The second that I dove in, my chin hit the bottom of the pool. My head snapped back with such force that I shattered my C4 vertebrae, and I was completely paralyzed in the blink of an eye. My name is Francesca Clark, and I'm the president of Clark's Botanicals. The first thing that popped into my mind was, you are an idiot. Instead of thinking you're underwater in a pool, looking at the bubbles float up from your mouth, I was more thinking, do you realize how much therapy you're gonna have to do when you get better?
6 o'clock in the morning, my cell phone rang. And when I answered, it was a doctor from Stony Brook. He said, your son had a very serious accident and we want you to talk to him before we do surgery.
This feels like working out before my injury. The doctor said that I had a 19% chance of surviving not only that night, but the rest of my life. Before I even woke up from surgery, they were in Long Island, and my mom said in Italian, sposta qualcosa, which means move something. And I twitched my shoulder. And so she turned to Dr. Stevens, a surgeon, and she said, well, you don't know my son.
Sure, I told him. He didn't know my son, and he didn't know the courage and the strength that was going to be behind all this event. And it was true.
For me, it didn't mean that he doesn't know me. It means more, you don't know my family.
I was very pleased to see was Paul just getting his character back. He wasn't going to be overwhelmed by the accident.
It felt like, to me, how can I redefine who I am? How can I make myself just as strong as I felt like I was before, but in a different kind of way? The secondary effect of my injury was that my skin stopped sweating. And as soon as my skin stopped sweating, it couldn't rebalance itself. I had tried prescription medications, over-the-counter medications, $3 creams, $500 creams, nothing worked. I was tired. I reached my lowest point. I met Christopher Reeve at an event here in Westchester, and he was an encyclopedia. He just knew everything about every scientist and every research project that was going on in the US and the world. The day that Christopher Reeve passed away, I realized that I wanted to do more. Clark's Botanicals started more as something that would bring your inner strength forward. And in order to get to that, I turned to my dad, and we went through 78 different versions, which took 5 years.
You know, my dad clearly helped him formulate it. In the business, I think everybody in the family has been involved.
We looked at jasmine extracts, and lavender, and rose, and chamomile, and every other botanical extract that we could find.
You know, because really the company is Francesca. I mean, you can call it Clark's Botanicals, but you could also just call it Francesca.
Let me try it. We are a family-run business. We're completely independent. But we are one of the top sellers on QVC. We've grown 64% at Space NK in the UK. We just launched in Russia, and we're now launching in Canada in 2 months. And we just signed a deal with American Airlines to make their amenity kit program in the United States. For me, it was about getting to a point where I felt so frustrated that I broke free. And I felt like my shackles just were on the floor behind me. Yeah! I don't know what the future will bring, and all I can do is contribute to what's going to happen from now on.
Clark considers each of his products as heroes in a jar, created specifically to save and protect your skin. Well, as you've seen, heroes aren't born, they're made. We've all faced adversity in one form or another. It's how you react that makes all the difference. There's a hero in all of us just waiting to emerge. We just have to let it out when we get the chance. I'm Marysol Castro. See you next time. And remember, el verdadero héroe vive dentro de ti. The real hero lives inside you. Until next time.